Hey everyone, so welcome to another one of my commentary videos. These two matches, I think these two matches were back to back. The matches that, of course, I'm going to be showing. They were just back to back, a part of a pretty fun session that I had. I think, yeah, it was just last night, so like the night before I'm recording this. I'm recording this in like the middle of the day right now. Outside as usual, but I decided no camera. The camera doesn't really add much unless I come across something that I specifically want to show. So I think what I'll do is I'll just do voiceover like this so I can watch the gameplay as I'm talking about it. Because there's actually some parts that I want to talk about as they come. So I'll do this so I can watch the gameplay as I'm talking. But then if there's something that I come across I want to actually show on my camera, I can just switch to the camera pretty easily. So I think that's going to be the sort of format I do from now on. And there's something specific that I want to show once I actually get to it too. So you'll see sort of both aspects of that through the video. As I was saying, this was a couple of really fun matches that I had last night. In this first one, I'm using a pretty new loadout where I have Baza and what was the other one? So yeah, so I have Baza and Despair, and it wasn't really intentional to do this, but the cool thing about this is that I have two silent weapons. So if I'm not using my melee, I'm not showing up on the radar, which I think is pretty cool. And I honestly didn't expect to enjoy this loadout as much as I actually enjoyed it. It might have just been because it was a fun session, like it was a really fun session last night. One of the most fun I had in a while, and I'm not entirely sure why. As you're gonna see, I don't play particularly well. Maybe that was like part of the fun, like because like as you can see, I'm up against Taco with his signature Hydroid Mire, and it's like I'm not doing great against it. Like it looks like I'm doing great at first, but like the end result isn't that great, right? But I think it was like particularly good for the loadout that I was using, and like we were pretty, I guess I would say, equally matched with these sets of loadouts. So I think that's what made it really enjoyable. Basically, I held back enough to be pretty equal with my opponents instead of doing my usual, which is like either holding back too much or just not or just not holding back enough. I think I found a really good balance here, which just made it really enjoyable. I just realized I can barely see the screen. I'm gonna try changing my phone orientation. Yeah, I wanted to change my screen orientation because there's a certain part of the match that I wanted to talk about, and that part of the match is actually coming up, so pretty good timing, actually. Actually, fun fact, I did like a whole recording after this, like a previous take, and then I actually missed the part that I was trying to get because I was like talking about Baza and I just wasn't paying attention. So yeah. Of course, I'm not going to show that, but now you know that it happened. So yeah. What was I saying? Oh yeah, because like, actually, yeah, this is the part right here. Alright, so if you look closely, like you see a lot of electric procs happen, right? And of course, these electric procs are coming from the what do you call it? The floor here. And there are two different instances of someone damaging someone else with their own electric proc. So like someone will stand in the electricity, and then someone nearby will get damaged, which is a pretty normal effect, but like I only really thought about it in terms of self-damage just now. So like so that you can electrocute yourself to damage someone else. And I actually think that there are ways to make that useful. Yeah, like it seems weird, but I'm actually probably gonna try it out pretty soon. It's not gonna be something that you get a bunch of kills in a match with, but I think like if you keep it in mind as a strategy, it's gonna improve your performance with the right loadout. Like, it's not gonna be something that's gonna be useful to most people for sure, but I think it's gonna end up being something pretty cool to show, and I guess kind of noteworthy to keep in mind of. You'll see it. It's really weird, but I'll just show you guys eventually. But yeah, back to what I was saying about loadout choice. I think what made this really important was I was able to hold back enough to actually match myself with the level of competition effectively. So I think that is. So it's definitely something that I generally try to do, but I just never. I never just quite get it right. But this time I did get it right, and I did that a few matches in a row. Well, it was at least 2 matches in a row. Might have been 3, but at least 2 matches in a row. And that was pretty nice. I think part of what might have contributed to that was how good Baza turned out to be for me. Not sure if I talked about this already, but some of you probably might remember when I just thought of Baza like a bad weapon. Not like horrible or anything, but just not really worth using overall, because of its lowish DPS and magazine capacity. I think it's in the 200 something range, 260-ish range, which isn't horrible. There are plenty of, I guess I'd say, good weapons around that range, but when you have some good options that are around 300 DPS or 330 DPS, it's you have to have something a pretty good perk in return for those lower amounts of DPS to be worth it. Now for Baza, that's pretty much perfect accuracy and being silent. And the accuracy isn't really anything new for me because, as you know, I use their Vandal a lot. It has much more DPS. It's not silent, of course, but it's perfectly accurate, and the main drawback is as projectile. But it's a fast projectile, and as you've seen, the fact that something's projectile doesn't affect me very much. So not a huge drawback. Of course, hit scan is a little bit easier to use, but the difference in power is generally well worth the slight difference in difficulty. Yeah, so for me, Baza would basically just be basically it'd be what do you call it? Throwing weapons, except you make it hit scan in exchange for a lot of lost DPS. Alright, so I didn't really think it was very worthwhile for me, but I did later realize that I sort of misjudged it just on the basis that hit scan isn't that useful for me. Alright, so I eventually did consider it being hit scan more of a major perk, but not more of a major perk for me overall. And so yeah, I basically thought of Baza on about the same level as their thing, where it's it can be a pretty strong weapon, but it's not something that would be really good for everyone. If that makes any sense. So you've probably seen how Derek Vandal is really good for me. But it's just not the sort of weapon that would be as good for everyone. But you know, I was pretty pleasantly surprised by how well Baza performed for me in these matches I played. And I'm not sure exactly what it was. I do really like the fact that it sounded like it. As I said, I didn't really intend for this to be a silent loadout. Sorry about the plane. I can't defeat the plane. I didn't really intend for this to be a silent loadout. But I think that was a major contribution to like the usefulness of it. I think I slightly modded it to be a little bit more like effective against shields than usual. I'm not exactly sure, but like I basically had like I had 2 silent weapons, and so like I was a bit harder to keep track of than usual. I really want to experiment more with like how I can intentionally use that, because like while I sort of like kept it in mind, I wasn't really using that with full intention like I sort of tried to do with Loki. I'm not sure if I actually uploaded a video about that, but that kind of failed because of the fact that invisibility actually dispels when you what do you call it? When you actually deal damage, so not just when taking damage, but if you actually deal damage, invisibility will dispel. Oh, which is really weird, because like Ash's smoke screen will dispel when you attack, and not when you take damage. Whereas Loki will dispel if you either take damage or deal damage specifically. You know, and I think that's a really weird way for it to work. I think I could still make it work if I wanted to, because like before I was using Ogris, and so the thing about Ogris is that like you can get a hit, but it might not deal much damage at all, and that's usually fine depending on like how you're trying to use it. But if you're trying to take advantage of invisibility, it would actually often be better to just completely miss than to just barely hit someone. So Ogris isn't a very good combo for him. And the thing I wanted to do with that level was like to really like capitalize on my ability to do damage without line of sight. So that's sort of like why I want an AoE weapon overall, and of course Ogris is my main choice. But I think if I were to try the same thing with Conclave, I think it would work pretty well, because Conclave has like 70% fall off. It's either like 70% or 30%, but I know that like it has like relatively low fall off. I can't remember like which order like fall off works. But that should like guarantee like a higher percent of damage to be dealt on any given hit. So if I can just make sure that, you know, that amount of damage is sufficient for what I need to like combo or whatever, I think that would work really well. And alternatively, I could also do something like Cerno. So like I could just like sort of spam Cerno shots, and then you know, when it hits, you know, it's gonna pretty much take out all of someone's shields. I think like against like some conversions, if you're not using what do you call it, feathered arrows. Yeah. If you're not using feathered arrows, it's guaranteed to one-shot shields if they don't have overshields on. So that could also work really well. Oh my goodness, the plane's today. Just a second. Alright, so I was actually going to take the opportunity of the plane being gone to like actually go towards the plants I wanted to show you guys. But then I ended up losing all that video somehow. I don't know what on earth happened, like it's just gone. I even got to show a tortoise like that. Yeah, so I guess I'll just talk about it a bit, right? So I guess I'll just pull up some pictures that I took before, periodically. Alright, so there's this plant called Java Plum. Well, well, there's this fruit called Java Plum. Like, I guess the plant might be called Java Plum too. I don't know. It's kind of weird how like fruits and plants kind of have different names. It's weird. I never really thought about that much. But anyway, there's this fruit called Java Plum, and like the plant is kind of cool. Alright, so I've been eating a Java Plum recently. I think I've had like 4 total so far. The first one I had was really good. It was a really like sweet and sour flavor. Now the other ones I had were still good, but they weren't as sweet as the first one I had. I think what I need to do is I need to wait for them to ripen a bit more than I've been doing. The thing is that like other animals might get to it before me. I'm not sure how frequently they're eaten. I think I've seen like 1 or 2 get taken by something. Like I didn't actually see them be taken, but I did see that they were missing. And I don't think there's anybody around here who really knows about all the different edible plants around here. So I'm assuming that animals eat them. Like especially since it's a Florida native and stuff. Like, you know, fruits basically evolved to be eaten. So if a fruit evolves to be eaten, then then there's something local that has to eat it, obviously. So, you know, animals eat it. It probably is actively being eaten. I'm probably gonna end up growing my own because I really like the fruit. And the cool thing about the fruit is that the cool thing about the plant is that it's actually kind of parasitic. So it can grow on its own, but it'll actually grow better if it's able to suck the nutrients from another plant's roots and stuff. Right, and like, and it's kind of different from other plants where like you know, of course, plants will generally suck nutrients like from each other, but they're sort of pulling from the same resource. Right, whereas this is actually taking directly from the other plant, which is why it actually grows better when it has what would otherwise be competition for other plants. You know, other plants would you know have their growth hindered by that, whereas the Java Plum plant is benefited by it. And by the way, if you look up Java Plum, you're not gonna find the same plant that I'm talking about. You're gonna have to look it up by its scientific name, which is Ximenea something. Ximenea americana, I think. I'm gonna pull up the scientific name on screen in case you want to look it up. But that's the plant that I'm talking about. So yeah, pretty good, pretty interesting. And the cool thing about it being parasitic is I think I could actually that could actually kind of be taken advantage of, because Florida has this invasive called Brazilian pepper, and you know, it grows pretty prolifically. It's your standard invasive. You know, it's a problem in general, and I think pretty much having like a parasitic plant like this is a pretty useful tool in like dealing with something like that. So like my idea is that you plant this nearby a Brazilian pepper, and then you'd basically cut down the Brazilian pepper. The thing about usually cutting it down is that like it'll grow through its shoots, like that's how it generally spreads. But then like it'll also like just easily grow back in general, right? So it's sort of like you know, like those like bamboo species that spread. It would be sort of like that, right? So cutting it down usually just doesn't. Well, cutting it down alone usually just doesn't do the trick. But if you cut it down and then have some parasite just leaching off of it, I think that would be much more effective. And the cool thing about it is that Brazilian pepper, it's technically edible, but it has that same chemical as poison ivy that like makes people allergic to it. So it's technically edible, but most people aren't going to be able to safely eat it. And what's worse is that like some people who are immune, like they'll eat it and then they'll develop an allergy to it, a pretty severe allergy. So really, really dangerous and really not recommended. So I would pretty much consider it not edible, right? But what you can do is you can basically replace this inedible invasive plant with this edible native by having this edible native leech off of it directly, which I think is a pretty cool idea. Right, and another cool thing about hog plum is that it fruits sporadically year round. So like having a lot of them is like really beneficial to having, you know, a year round. It's beneficial for having a year round supply rather than having like a larger harvest when it's in season. So that's going to be an idea that I really want to try out. Just like growing hog plum to like replace invasives with you know, something that's much more beneficial overall. So yeah, that's going to be it for this video. I just sort of looked at my recording like spread thingy and it looks kind of messy right now. I'm gonna hopefully this edits well, unlike my previous recording. That was a whole mess, but yeah, I'll see how this edits, and I'll talk to you all later.